Perhaps a subpoena and the threat of perjury before Congress will shed more light on all this. Joining me now, member of the House Oversight Committee, Virginia Democratic Congressman Subramanyam. So, Congressman, let's get to Iran very, very quickly, because that's the breaking news. The United States, according to a release from Central Command, is in ongoing military strikes against what it describes as Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites. Your reaction?
It's not surprising. Iran is difficult to deal with in the first place, and then you have an administration that has showed itself to be incompetent when it comes to foreign affairs and diplomacy. And so that's why you have the breakdown of all these frameworks, and that's why you have continued tit-for-tat attacks. I don't think this war is anywhere near over. I don't think this framework or this deal that they made, this 14-point deal, is going to hold up in the short term and long term. So they're going to have to figure out a way forward. But right now, if Iran's striking, vessels and not opening the Strait of Hormuz, and then there's a tat with return strikes, then that to me doesn't sound like peace or a ceasefire.
How does it read to you that this was announced by Central Command after markets closed?
I think it reads exactly the way we're implying here, which is that this administration looks closely at the stock market. They look closely and they manipulate the markets often. They come out with news on Fridays and Mondays based on how they think the markets will react. And then at this point, releasing this news after markets, there's a reason for doing that.
All right, let's get back to what happened today at the committee and Leon Black. What was it like in there? What was the atmosphere?
It was interesting because I had 3 hours worth of questions, and so did the committee. And yet Leon Black is telling us that we had this premeditated strategy to corner him and to subpoena him fully. Remember, this was a transcribed interview. Republicans decided that they wanted to not have him sworn in and have him deposed under oath. But I think they changed their tune when they saw that Leon Black, like many other witnesses close to Epstein, was not answering questions. He was not being forthcoming with us. He said from the very beginning he would not talk about anything other than his financial ties to Jeffrey Epstein, but that he had nothing to do when it comes to sexual assault or rape or sex trafficking. So if he has nothing to hide, why not talk about it? Why not answer our questions? And then when it comes to the NDAs, he flatly refused to even acknowledge the existence of NDAs. NDAs don't hold up in front of Congress. I don't think they understand that Congress is not a court of law. We're different. And when we're doing an investigation, they need to comply with our investigation. And so, their lawyer was not up to speed on the way things work in a congressional deposition. But I'm glad that the chairman went forward with issuing him a subpoena, and he's going to come back on July 16th, I hope. Otherwise, he'll be going to jail.
Congressman, for those who don't follow this story closely, explain the importance of these non-disclosure agreements with women who were in Jeffrey Epstein's circle and that you suspect Leon Black has more knowledge than he's so far disclosed.
Right. So Leon Black bankrolled Jeffrey Epstein from after he was first arrested in 2008. You're talking about 2012 to 2017. And so part of what Leon Black's strategy was to make girls women sign these NDAs when something with them happened, whether it was an extramarital affair. And a lot of survivors have said that he also engaged in the sex trafficking and sexual assault at times. And he was very brutal, and they were afraid of him. And so, he was intimately working with Jeffrey Epstein on financial matters. And somehow Jeffrey Epstein was able to get paid enormous sums. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars for work that costs a fraction of that amount from a reputable firm. And so it doesn't add up. The only way it adds up is if Leon Black is guilty of something. And so that's why we had questions for him. These NDAs that were central to understanding how Leon Black controlled the people around him, including the women who accused him of sexual assault.
For my audience's benefit, Congressman, explain the power of a congressional subpoena and what can happen if you ignore it or you lie under it.
Yeah, absolutely. When we subpoena someone and they do not respond, they do not show up, we can hold them in contempt of Congress. That happened earlier this year. I think wrongfully it happened earlier this year when Republicans on the committee wanted to have criminal sanctions against the Clintons even though I think they made every effort to. In this case, Leon Black is now just being issued a subpoena. And if he does not comply, meaning he does not give us the NDAs that he used to control these women, if he does not show up for his deposition on July 16th, then we can vote to hold him in criminal contempt of Congress, refer that to the Department of Justice, who will then prosecute him, and we'll see him go to jail.
Virginia Democrat Subramanyam, I appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
CBS's Nicole Killian.